Hi, I'm Mariana Toledo, and today I'm going to be talking to you about paradigms. Paradigm basically explains the way people see certain situations and why they see it that way in that situation. A wife and husband lived over the bridge on the other side of town, and in order to get to town, they had to take a ferry every single time. So the woman's husband had worked from sunrise to sunset every day, and he never got to spend time with his wife ever. She felt very lonely and very neglected that every time he came home, he was too tired to give her any attention or to talk to her or anything. So the wife began to take the ferry across town during the day to meet a lover that she would be with while her husband was at work, and she would return every day before sunset. One day when she was over at the lover's house, they got into a really heated argument because she decided that she didn't want to be with him anymore. As she was storming out of his apartment, she had left her wallet. As she was getting to the ferry, she didn't notice until she was about to pay. So she gets to the ferry and she tells the ferryman, please, I forgot my wallet. I can't go back and get it. Every day riding the ferry back home right before sunset, I need to get home before my husband does. The ferryman says, no, I can't let you on. You know the rules. You have to pay. I don't care how many times you've been on this ferry. So she has another option. There is a dark walkway through forest, basically, to get back to her house. However, it's known to be very dangerous, so she decides, I have no option, so she starts walking down that way. As she's walking, a robber goes up to her, and he tells her, give me all your money, and she tells them, no, I don't have any money, and she ends up getting killed. So, now that I have discussed the experience, I'm going to make some inferences. The whole point of this story is to basically analyze what your answer to the story is. So, did you pick the wife? Did you pick the husband? Did you pick the lover? Did you pick the ferryman? Or did you pick the robber? If you pick the wife, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, yeah, it was her fault. Why is she having an affair in the first place? If she hadn't had an affair, she wouldn't have died on the way home. Well, if you pick the husband, you're saying, well, he should have appreciated his wife more, otherwise she wouldn't have been off having an affair because she felt neglected. If you pick the ferryman, you're probably saying, well, you saw her every day take the ferry home. Why didn't he just let her on? It's his fault that she had to go the other path and then get killed. If you're picking the lover, you're thinking, oh, why did he get upset that she's leaving him? He clearly knows that she has a husband. Why would he get upset? He should have just, let her leave and forget her stuff. And if you're picking the robber, you're just natural selection. She went down that path knowing very well that she was going to get hurt, and that's why she got shot. Now that I have made some inferences, I will discuss how these inferences can be transferred into real life situations. For the most part, when I think of a really good example of this, it would be rape cases. So when people think about rape cases, they're like, okay, well, who's to blame? A lot of people decide between, were they under the influence? Was it the clothes the victim was wearing? Was it the victim's fault? And then obviously, the rapist's fault. Some people will take the victim's side and name 1, 2, 3. This is why it was the rapist's fault for her getting raped. Other people will take the rapist's side and be like, well, she was provocative, she was this, she was this, she was this. Why paradigms are so important, because you don't necessarily know if everybody has the same universal lens. For the most part, yes, we do have a universal lens, but everybody has their own depiction of it. So we can't necessarily just assume that everybody thinks the way that we do. In conclusion, this concept is important because it helps us understand that, yes, the universe does have a universal interpretive lens, but not everyone's on the same page. By applying this concept to your life, you will understand why some people view things differently than you. Use this story and its meaning and what type of situation you're in. This way you don't misjudge anyone or the situation that you're in, and you explore all the possibilities. Everyone has a story, and there's something to be learned from every experience. Thank you.